Hi everybody, thanks again for volunteering to read or time keep or score keep on our competition. Wanted to go over a few things for you to help you understand the process. It is actually fairly simple, but at first it feels a little overwhelming, so hopefully this will help. First of all, on Saturday morning, Miss Nall, who is in charge of all of academic team for the county, wants to meet with everyone. She will give you a binder that has the rules and all of your questions for that day. And she will go over the rules again with you that we're going to do here, so hopefully it will reinforce. After that, you will have a little bit of time to talk to each other, to work through any details or questions that you might have. And other than that, I think that we can kind of get started on how to do this. So for our academic team, both schools were allowed to have up to 4 players, and one of those players is a captain. They can also have up to 2 substitutes that can switch in halfway through or at the very beginning of each match. So when they come in, you will have 4 desks on either side in front of you with 2 different color buzzer systems. The buzzer systems vary on how they work, but they're pretty intuitive. And in front of you will have a button that controls the lockout system. So when someone presses the button, no one else can press the button to buzz in until you have cleared it out. When everyone is seated, please go ahead and get started as soon as you can. There is a schedule that we like to try to keep to, but if you can start any part of this early, go ahead and get started. So once the 3 of you, or 2 of you if there's only one timekeeper and scorekeeper, are ready to go and everyone is in the room, you will have parents behind you and students in front of you, parents behind the kids and then the students. You can go ahead and start. At the beginning of each round, you want to introduce yourself and say who you are, just so everybody knows, and then ask if anyone has any questions about how things work. After the first round, you almost definitely will not have any questions. And then, if you could go through this checklist, first you want to confirm which school is on which side. Some schools will have a nameplate, others will not. Once you have confirmed which school is which side, then you want to also confirm who the captain is of the team, because the captain is the only one allowed to speak during the bonus rounds of these questions, to answer the bonus rounds of the questions. Once you have your captains figured out and the schools figured out and you're ready to go, the next thing that you want to do is do a buzzer check. These buzzers, some of them are in pretty rough shape. So every time you're about to start a round, you want to make sure that everyone goes through and pushes their buzzer and that you clear it out to make sure that everything's working okay. And then once you say that, you can make sure your scorekeeper is ready and you can let everybody know that you're going to begin. The other thing that is an important thing to tell the kids is some of them are very impulsive. So when they buzz in to answer a question, they will immediately yell out an answer. If you could say at the beginning of each round, "Do not give me an answer until I acknowledge you," that will really help the kids, because what has happened is sometimes a kid will think that they buzzed in and they will yell out an answer when it is actually someone else. That kid does not get credit for yelling out the answer, and it causes problems if they do that. So please go ahead and tell them, "I will acknowledge you first." And probably you want to say, "I will acknowledge you," by pointing at you and maybe saying the number and the color. Okay, once it's time to begin, you will have a binder. So here is my fancy binder. And it will have a set of questions in there divided up by rounds. Each round should be 20 questions with a halftime break. In order to read them, they're very simple. You're actually just reading exactly what it says. So start with what question number it is, and the initial questions are called toss-up questions. So for your first question, you'll say, "Everyone ready? All right, let's begin. Toss-up question number 1." And then there will be a category. So the category here is historical events. And after that, it is laid out exactly what to say to ask the question. You're going to read the question in its entirety. And at any point while you are reading the question or after, the kids are allowed to buzz in to guess an answer. So this is where things get started, and you are reading the question. Once they buzz in, they can give an answer and you acknowledge them. So let me not get the order wrong here. If you are a timekeeper, they have 10 seconds to buzz in to answer the question. Once they buzz in, everyone else is locked out. If you are the timekeeper, you start the time as soon as the question is finished being read. So, okay everyone, how do you spell the color red? You start the time for 10 seconds. When someone buzzes, pause the time, do not stop it. The reader will acknowledge the person and say, yes, blue team, and they will answer. If they answer correctly, then the toss-up question is done. If they answer incorrectly, very important, readers, that you do not say the answer, because the other team is allowed then to answer. So, if you have finished reading the question, someone has buzzed in, they have given the wrong answer. The response is, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Other school, do you have an answer? At that point, two things need to happen. You need to clear the buzzer system, and the timer needs to continue, not restart. The other team will have up to the remaining 10 time of the 10 seconds to buzz in as well. Okay, next thing is, if no one answers the question at all, or if the second team does not decide to try to answer, the timekeeper needs to say clearly at 10 seconds, time. And at that point, no one is allowed to answer, no one gets any points, you move on. Okay? If it's a tie, like they're buzzing as soon as they say time, I'll leave it up to you to decide whether to accept it or not, but it's okay, as long as it's not ridiculous. The other option is that they get the question right, which is easy. You say that is correct, leave the buzzers locked, don't clear it off, and we'll move on to the bonus round. But before we get there, there are a couple of twists to this. And again, this will be much easier once you've done it once. The first thing is that sometimes one of the students will buzz in the middle of the question. If they buzz in the middle of the question, they're totally allowed to do that. It's called an interrupt. You stop reading immediately as soon as they buzz in and wait for them to give an answer. Acknowledge them, let them give an answer. If they get it right, you say that is correct and move on. But if they get it wrong, say, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. I will reread the question. Because if you have been interrupted, the other team gets to hear the entire question over again in its entirety. Which means that the timekeeper will also not unpause until you've finished rereading the question as well. Okay, so there's that. Take your time reading through the question. When you're done with the question, the other team is allowed to buzz in because you've cleared it, and they have the remaining, or they have the full 10 seconds to buzz in. There was one other scenario that I can't pause it. If you have finished reading the question before anyone buzzes and they get it wrong, you do not reread the question. The only time you are allowed to reread the question is if someone has interrupted in the middle of the question. Okay, and only on the first time. All right, so that is the toss-up round. At that point, if someone has gotten the question right, then that team is allowed to do a bonus round. Now, the bonus round will consist of a question that the kids get to talk about after you're finished. So you will say, okay, congratulations, Rocky, you got the points, that is correct. This is your bonus question. Don't clear the buzzer and ask them the bonus question, which will be right there on the paper. After you finish asking them the question, they have 10 seconds to talk and discuss their answer. At the 10-second mark, the timekeeper will say time, and this is different from the toss-up round. When they say time, then you say, Captain, I need an answer. They don't have to answer before 10 seconds is up. They don't answer until you prompt them. At that point, the captain either answers or they can say that they defer to another child in the group if, say, they don't know the actual math answer or how to pronounce a word or something. But most of the time, the captain will answer. Do not give them very long. If they do not answer pretty much in the next second, in the first second or two, say, I need an answer. And if they don't give you one within another 2 seconds, you say, I'm sorry, that took too long. And they don't get any points. Otherwise, if they get the answer correct, you say that is correct, clear the buzzer system, and then say, next question, toss up number 2, category is, and move on from there. Okay, a couple of other notes. First of all, during toss-up questions, no one is allowed to talk. It is an individual competition at this point, so they are not allowed to talk. They really should not be looking back and forth at each other, and they should not be looking at the paper that they have in front of them for anything. It's just a one person buzzing and keeping an eye on things. So if there's talking, feel free to stop and say, please do not talk. Another thing that can happen sometimes is if a child gives a vague or partial answer. If that is true, and this is where your judgment comes into play, if that is true, that say the answer is Roosevelt, there's a couple of Roosevelts to choose from. So instead of saying correct, because they could be doing the wrong Roosevelt, you can say prompt, or you can say, could you be more specific? At that point, they're allowed to restate their answer. But if you do not say that, they are not allowed to change their answer. We have some very impulsive kids sometimes who they will buzz. You will tell them to answer. They will say one thing, realize it's wrong, and immediately try to say the correct thing. They cannot do that. If they say the wrong thing first, you must accept that answer as incorrect, which means they've probably said the correct answer for the other team to then steal from them as well. Also, the main thing that helps is you being decisive in the way that you respond to the kids. Do not hem and haw. Do not look over at the other people like the timekeeper. Just sit there, take your time. Do not ask them what they think or the coaches what they think. Take what has been given to you and go ahead and make a decision. If the coaches feel that the decision is incorrect, they will go and write it down and take a challenge to Miss Knoll, who will then decide what to do from there. But it helps a lot for the confidence of the kids in you if you are decisive on the unclear or difficult answers. The only exception to that, I would say, is if you're, say, a language teacher and there is a math problem that has multiple ways to express it correctly, and in the book is one answer, but what they gave is another answer that they insist is correct, then you might try to figure it out and say, take that to Miss Knoll and move on to the next question. Coaches are generally very nice and perfectly willing to help. So if you do have questions or mistakes, let them know. I don't know what you just said.
I will accept.
Oh, right. And the other one, my wife's favorite thing to say, if the answer is basically what they meant and you know it is correct, but it's not the answer that's in the book, you can always say, I will accept that answer. That doesn't mean, yes, it's correct, it's exactly what it said in there, but it does mean that it's a good answer. Now, don't be almost about it. If somebody asks, what's the capital of Florida, and they say Tallahassee, do not say, I will accept that, because it is not Tallahassee. Let's see, what else? Oh, another common mistake that is made is that one team will buzz in on a toss-up, get the answer wrong, and the reader will say, no, 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 it's blue, and give away the answer before the other team is allowed to guess. Be careful not to give the answer until you are allowed to. Now, if no one gets the answer correct, time is up, and you know it's done, Everyone expects you to give the answer so that they know the answer to the question. Just make sure that everyone has had their chance. Okay. One other note is if you make a mistake, such as the one that I just said where you give the answer and you shouldn't, or if you incorrectly read a question or anything else where the question is no longer valid, you are provided with at least 2 extra questions at the end of each section that you can use to replace the one that you messed up on. This includes bonus questions, so if you get the toss-up question right, but then you mess up on the bonus question, there is a bonus question for you as well. So you can always go to the extra questions to help. The coaches can help you with this, but do realize that if you have to go to the other question, if you have given the answer before you were supposed to, that team still has the answer wrong. You'll be reading the question for the other team. Okay, so after 10 questions will be halftime. At halftime, you are supposed to take a break of, I think, 5 minutes. First thing you need to do is say, now we'll take a little break. Any substitutions, coaches, so that they know they can have substitutions, and you need to check with the coaches what they have for a score. So you just say, and can we do a score check? Your scorekeeper will say what they think the score is, the coaches will confirm. During that 5 minutes, if everybody is ready to go right away, go ahead and start. Please do not wait. The faster that you can go, the more likely you are to stay on topic. It doesn't mean to rush through the questions themselves, but there's no reason to not start if everyone is ready at the beginning or at halftime. After halftime, please confirm again who the captains are and do a buzzer check, just in case someone kicked a wire or something, and then you're going to begin with the next question, read through to the end, and after the last question, you are going to say that is the last question and do one more score check with the coaches that they agree that that is the actual score. During the course of the matches, someone will be coming back and forth that's called a runner who will take those score sheets to Miss Null so that she can keep track. It will generally be after each match. Okay, so there are a couple of other things that have come up over the years that we thought might help you. The first thing is pacing. Pacing is kind of a feel that you get where you do want to continue constantly moving forward. This is a volunteer thing and we want to go home, but we do not want to be rushing so much that it is difficult to understand what is being said. These kids are processing these words as you are saying them, and oftentimes one word in the question is the key to them knowing what the answer is. So being able to read the questions well is so important. 2 things to help that is that you don't feel the need to rush when you are reading the question. Go ahead, a nice even pace, but also it is reading through, preferably out loud, all of these questions before the event even begins. You will have about 45 minutes probably before the matches begin to read through out loud and make sure that you know what these words are. There are scientific terms, cities and countries, Latin words, song names, people names, all kinds of things. So please look through all of it and make sure you know how to pronounce it first. Just make sure you do it in the coach's room, not where kids can hear the questions that you are practicing. Start on time if at all possible. Like I said, sometimes the buzzers are not in great shape. If they are messed up, then you will be able to either send your timekeeper to go find someone to help you, or you can text us, or if you want to just go ahead and keep going, the kids can do slap the table instead of pressing the buzzer. So if their buzzer is broken, they can just give it a slap. Just the kid whose buzzer is broken. And that way you know that you can call on them because you can hear their slap before the timer. That's a very rare occurrence, but just in case of emergency. Don't forget that if there is a challenge, it is completely the coach's job to take care of it. It is your job to read the question the best you can, say yes or no to the answer the best you can, and if there's a big enough problem, the coaches will take care of it with Miss Null. The students are not part of that process. This probably seems a little overwhelming at this point, and just want to reassure you that after the first round of doing this, you will feel like you've got it under control, no problem. You should have someone with you there that is a scorekeeper and timekeeper that helps you keep track of things, and they should be a good resource for you as well. And the attitudes are generally very good with all of these groups. Okay, last thing. Be loud, be clear, don't mumble, and be happy. All those things would be great, especially the don't mumble part. Okay, last thing I wanted to do is just read you the kind of question that we are going to run into and the process. So I'm going to be reading a question to my pretend beautiful wife audience, and she is going to buzz with a correct answer and buzz with an incorrect answer, just so you can kind of see how it goes. All right, here we go. Last thing, and we're finally done. Everyone's in the room. Is everyone here? Everyone here? Coaches, are you ready? All right, let's begin. My name is Mr. Riches. Thanks for coming in here today. And who do we have? All right, so over here we have Ruckle, and over here we have Rocky Bayou Christian School, 11-time state champion academic team. Great to have you. Does anyone have any questions about how to do this today? No? Okay. Well, in that case, who are our captains? Okay, and okay. All right, I'd like to do a buzzer check to make sure. I will point at you when it is ready. And remember that you have to clear the buzzer at your job. So we go here, beep, clear, here, beep, clear, and so on around all 8. And then say, very important thing to remember is after you buzz, wait for me to acknowledge you. I will point right at you and say, for you to answer the question. Try not to answer until I have acknowledged you. Okay, let's begin. Are you ready? Yes? Help me, Jesus. Here we go. Toss-up question number 1 is fictional critters. In the Harry Potter stories, what kind of creatures are the Errol, Hedwigs, and Pigwidgeons? Rocky Bayou, I'm a little disappointed you've read these books.
I haven't, so my guess is chipmunks.
Chipmunks is incorrect. Ruckle, would you like to try? Clear, timer restarts, wait, beep. Ruckle. The correct answer is dogs. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. The correct answer was birds. All right, moving on. Toss-up number 2. Clear. Chemical compounds. Oxides are chemical compounds that always contain... Rocky Bayou?
Lead.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect and was an interrupt, so I will reread the entire question for Ruckle. Clear. Oxides are chemical compounds that always contain what element? Beep. Ruckle. Silicone. Incorrect. All right, and then last one is one where you get the answer right? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The correct answer was oxygen. Okay, here we go. Toss-up number 3 is bodily tissues. What kind of dense, fibrous tissue grows to join the 2 sides of a laceration? Rocky Bayou?
Scar tissue.
That is correct. We don't clear. We say, Rocky Bayou, this bonus is for you. The category is non-fiction. Harold and Doris Faber's work, We the People, is about what historical document? And then we have 10 seconds to talk.
The Constitution.
After
I
10
think it's the
seconds
Constitution.
of them doing
I
stuff
think it's
like
the
that,
Declaration of Independence.
the
No, it's
timekeeper will
not.
say loudly and clearly, time, he will say, Captain, I need an answer.
The Constitution.
That is correct. 10 points for Rocky Bayou. Next question, toss up, clear, and move on. And that's it. You got it. Great job.
It only took 25 minutes to explain that. So now we're worried that you're going to be freaked out. But you got this, really, you do.
It's piece of cake. Again, Miss Null will go over all this stuff with you as well, so you get to hear it from a different perspective. Thank you again, guys. We literally couldn't do this unless you were willing to be vulnerable here and step up to the plate and be awesome. So blessings to you. We appreciate you. All right. Bye.